Senator Greg Kirk says he has no interest in preventing same-sex couples from getting marriage licenses. But he also thinks the state should protect the religious liberties of Georgians who believe marriage is between one man and one woman. Senator Kirk joins us live with more on his First Amendment Defense Act, a bill certain to stir up plenty of controversy. Also tonight, Beyond Haley's Hope. Representative Alan Peake looks to expand the ability of Georgians to qualify for the use of medical marijuana and set up a way to grow it right here. We'll have the latest. Lawmakers starts right now. Well, if it's Monday in January, you know you're watching Lawmakers. Welcome to coverage of Day 9 of the 2016 session. I'm Bill Nigut. We have an awful lot to get to tonight. Let's start with Shelby Lynn, who's down at the Capitol live with a report for us. Shelby?
Hi, Bill. Committee hearings are increasing this week at the Capitol as lawmakers begin considering legislation on a range of issues, from horse racing to education to township incorporation. But the big story at the Capitol today was the committee hearing on expanded medical marijuana legislation, House Bill 722. Like last year, Macon Republican Alan Peake is leading the charge to expand the Cannabis Oil Act from last session to include legalizing marijuana growing operations in Georgia and increasing the number of illnesses on the list for cannabis oil treatment.
We knew when we passed legislation last year that there was still going to be one big, huge barrier. How do you access the product? We allowed protection from prosecution for possession for citizens that were properly registered with the state, but we didn't provide a mechanism of how could they get a safe, lab-tested, effective product here in Georgia.
Peake was the first person to testify at today's packed hearing before the non-civil Judiciary Committee, and although the bill is still undergoing changes, he explained to the committee what his expanded medical marijuana measure would do.
These licensees that are granted to folks here in Georgia would be, they would grow it, the product, they would process the product, and they would distribute the product all here. There would be a seed to sale tracking system, and meaning every plant would be tracked for security purposes. There'd be limited medical conditions. As we know, we have 8 medical conditions now. We are looking into adding 9 more medical conditions, including autism, Tourette syndrome, Alzheimer's, and PTSD, as well as intractable pain.
And supporters of an expanded marijuana bill offered up emotional testimony on why more illnesses need to be added to the list. Brian Underwood's son, Reed, was born with a rare skin disease. Every part of the 1.5-year-old's life is affected by the painful condition, which causes chronic blistering and a shortened lifespan.
His pain is beyond comprehension for you and me. No one can imagine what it feels like to have bleach and water poured over the raw skin. It hurts you as a parent to hear the screams of your child. This is an issue that should be decided between a doctor and a patient. Reed's doctor wants the oil for Reed, and that should be all that is needed.
Reed is taking medications for his condition, but they're not helping. The boy's doctor believes cannabis oil with a higher THC count than is currently legal in Georgia would help.
There is no reason to fear cannabis oil. It is a natural and great alternative to the narcotics Reed is currently on. I am puzzled why some people are against cannabis oil, but somehow think that morphine, methadone, and Dilaudid are okay. If cannabis was developed by a pharmaceutical company, there is no doubt it would be widely used.
Jennifer Conforti couldn't wait for lawmakers to possibly include autism on the list of illnesses eligible for treatment with cannabis oil.
2 years ago, almost to the day, she started severely self-injuring her arm. She would bite her arm. It was always her right arm. She had very crazy attacks. We used to call them rages.
Conforti testified that within 4 days of her daughter's treatment with medical marijuana, her condition vastly improved. Others suffering from multiple sclerosis, PTSD, and a brain cancer survivor also testified at today's hearing. In the end, Representative Alan Peake sought to reassure lawmakers that medical marijuana is no gateway drug.
Whether we pass this bill or not, people are going to continue to smoke marijuana to get high. In fact, if I wanted to right now, I could walk probably right across the street and pay $20 and probably get a couple of joints and get high. So whether we pass this bill or not, that's going to continue.
Today's hearing focused on those supporting expansion of the Cannabis Act. On Wednesday, opponents of the measure get their chance to testify. We will, of course, follow the developments for you, Bill, and bring you the latest update on Wednesday. But one thing we do know is that Representative Peake has enough support to get his legislation through the House pretty quickly. The Senate, though, is a different matter. We have to wait and see how the legislation fares in that chamber, where there's more opposition to expanding the Cannabis Act. Georgia's senior U.S. Senator Johnny Isakson returned to the Gold Dome today, making a quick visit to the State House and Senate. Isakson served in both chambers before he was elected to Congress in 1999. He talked about the importance of the National Guard in Georgia.
We have new missions in Georgia that are inseparable for our state and our country, not the least of which is at Fort Gordon, where we now have the cybersecurity of excellence for the United States military and the cybersecurity of the United States of America today. That is the single largest investment we have made in our infrastructure in years. Robins Air Force Base with the Air Logistics Center is absolutely critical. As we've cut back in budgets in Washington, in some places too much, we've cut down on the number of warfighting machines that we have, and we're having to keep the old ones going longer. Were it not for the air logistics centers like Robins Air Force Base, our Air Force would not be flying today.
Isakson also told lawmakers that federal money for deepening the Savannah Harbor is on its way. Also today at the Capitol, a long public hearing on the punishment for some students at Georgia Tech. The cases in question involve charges of sexual misconduct. Others include racial slurs or intimidation. Students claim they didn't get a fair chance to defend themselves. It's that alleged lack of due process that has some lawmakers concerned.
It is to appropriate the funds for the university system of the state. We're not going to appropriate funds if these individual institutions are risking those funds through lack of due process.
Representative Earl Earhart is the chair of the House subcommittee that reviews funding for public universities. He says he's concerned that students at Georgia Tech and other state schools are being expelled or suspended based only on the statements of accusers. At the hearing, a mother identified only as Jane Doe says her son was falsely accused of sexual misconduct and suspended, even though he had evidence to prove his innocence. He was eventually reinstated, but she says the ordeal was overwhelming.
I see the hurt in my son's eyes, and I know the emotional toll that has been taken, and he has struggled to maintain his dignity in the face of this injustice. Sexual misconduct is clearly an issue on college campuses. Our family believes anyone who engages in such conduct should pay the consequences. Someone found responsible for sexual misconduct will carry that stigma with them for the rest of their life. You would think, with such dire consequences, that Georgia Tech would try hard to have a fair, objective process that seeks truth and justice.
Georgia Tech University President Bud Peterson says he couldn't speak about specific cases, but says the university system is working to revise the system and make it more fair to the accused. He described how cases are investigated.
In fact, I hazard to say that every single criminal act is a violation of our student code of conduct. So what we try to do is not impose any sanctions or judgment or opinion about the criminal aspects of a particular violation, but to focus on the code of conduct and how it impacts and does or does not violate that.
Members of the committee say they'll continue to work with Georgia Tech and the university system to make sure all students are treated fairly when these kinds of cases are under investigation. Finally tonight, another economic development announcement from Governor Nathan Deal. The governor says the Valmira Glass Group is expanding its U.S. headquarters in Dublin. The $90 million investment is expected to create more than 400 new jobs over the next 6 years. That's it from us. Bill, back to you.
Shelby, thanks an awful lot. You have teed up a lot of really good issues for our guests to talk about tonight. Joining me, as he does often on this show, Jim Galloway, the longtime political writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Representative Calvin Smyre, he's a Democrat from Columbus, 42-year veteran of the Georgia General Assembly, and one of the most respected leaders under the Gold Dome. Senator Ed Harbison, also a Democrat from Columbus. It's Columbus night here on Lawmakers. And Senator Greg Kirk, he's from Americus. He's a Republican, and he's just dropped his bill that's sparking an awful lot of discussion, SB 284, the First Amendment Defense Act. Senator, we should say that you were here early in the session.
Right.
And at that point, we gave some conversation built around your proposal, but you hadn't actually dropped the bill.
Correct.
Now you have, and there are concerns being expressed out there that you are trying to, in some ways, essentially undo gay marriage by granting people out there in the private sector and perhaps in government the right to not involve themselves in business with gay couples. Do you want to explain to us what your bill, now that it's actually in writing, does and doesn't do?
Sure. It is an anti-discrimination against those who still hold to the traditional view of marriage, that marriage is to be between a man and a woman. And it says that government cannot interfere with them for expressing their thoughts. Now, you know, on the show I was here 2 weeks ago, and by the way, I understand if I come one more time this session, I get a free parking place out front. So,
well, you get the microwave oven.
Okay,
Go ahead.
good. Well, you know, it just says that government cannot interfere, and we put a clause in that bill that you saw. I showed it to Jim on the Senate floor, actually, and it says specifically, this bill in no way relieves a government employee from doing their duty. They are hired to do a job. Their job description is all part of their employment, and this doesn't give them any out to not complete their duty.
So you're saying that we couldn't have a Kim Davis situation in this state where a clerk could refuse a marriage license to a gay couple?
That's exactly right.
Right. But your bill does something new and different in that it establishes a protected class of people, does it not? I mean, it based on what they believe, and that is going to be the topic of debate, I think, surrounding your bill, and most probably, should it pass, a legal challenge, I would think.
Well, and we've looked at this constitutionally. That's what you're questioning, is the constitutionality of the bill, and we've looked at it and have had many constitutional lawyers look at it, and they say that it does pass the Lemon test. I guess that would be what you'd be referring to, because there are people who don't have religious beliefs that still believe marriage is between a man and a woman, and it doesn't have necessarily in their life, it doesn't necessarily have a religious base. So I see it as more secular than just protecting a particular class.
Representative Smyre, you're letting this bill play out in the Senate because that's where it rests right now. But your chamber, Democrats and some Republicans, including the Speaker of the House, have not shown a lot of enthusiasm for legislation that many see as restricting the rights of gays and lesbians.
I think what you have here is a situation where you probably will create another class as it relates to the rights of some individuals. And so with that in mind, I think the Supreme Court and the legal people I've talked to have spoken to this issue. So the bill is in the Senate, and I guess we'll wait and see when it comes to the House. But at the same time, it's been my experience over the years that when you develop something that involves a certain class of people, then you're going to have some sort of legal challenge.
Senator, on the other hand, SB 129, Josh McCoon's RFRA, passed the Senate with flying colors last session. The Senate seems more inclined to support a measure like this, don't they?
Well,
maybe not you personally.
Yeah, I would hesitate to, speak for the entire Senate in that matter as it relates to, well, they embraced it wholeheartedly because there was great debate over my colleague's bill as well. But in this instance, you got to look at it like it's creating a special class. It's just where it seems on the surface. And while sentimentally, you may want to say, well, I see where he's coming from. I know what he wants to do to make sure that those people who are in the category of being Christians have some degree of protection. You can't argue with that as a Christian person, but at the same time, you want to look at what the law of the land says and measure it against that backdrop. And I think in that case, you'll have that met as it relates to being that creative class.
And I think it's important to point out that we understand what the law of the land is, and this bill in no way questions or impedes, just like I told you last time, a couple's right, a same-sex couple's right to get married. It has nothing to do with that, but it does protect the faith-based organizations such as adoption agencies, your churches, and so forth that still hold to that traditional view that the government can't come in and impose taxes or I'm sorry, not taxes, but impose fines or penalties against them for upholding that belief. belief.
But for instance, I mean, your bill as written right now would offer protection to people who believe in one man, one woman as marriage when they speak on college campuses or in front of student groups. But it's that same protection isn't given to everybody else who might believe otherwise or have different variations. You don't see a polygamous group, for instance, wouldn't have that protection. And I'm not sure that that's going to pass legal muster.
Right, but polygamy is against the law still. It's not the law of the land. So I don't think any group, a same-sex couple, they speak all the time on college campuses and promote their beliefs and so forth. And there's never been any issues that I'm aware of that they had trouble on college campuses. Right. But there have been religious groups that have.
Right, we're going to let it rest for there because we know we're going to be talking about this throughout the session, and we'll certainly be talking about it on Political Rewind. But let me go to you, Representative Smyre. The Alan Peake had a very heart-rending committee hearing today that we saw Shelby Lynn report on. But if you don't mind, let me ask you a contrary question here. At a certain point, as you look at expanding the various illnesses that could be covered by cannabis oil, is this, no matter how sensitive we are to the concerns of families, is this the very slippery slope that some who have been opposed to medical marijuana in the first place are now seeing happen?
Well, I think when you look at this issue, and of course this is not a new issue in America, but it is a new issue for our political horizons. And what has happened, the fact of the matter is that so many people have had to go to other places to get treatment for these various illnesses. And scientists and people in the research area says that cannabis oil helps and affects these types of individuals, especially children. So with that in mind, I think that the expansion of the cannabis oil and where you can absolutely grow marijuana, it's going to be an educational factor. You've got to continue to educate the public and see what the ramifications are. And I think once you do that, I think the people in the public will be receptive to the idea. The political jury is still out on whether or not the public will accept marijuana growth in the state. It has to be very much have guarded recommendations, and also it has to, from a regulatory standpoint, we have to have some sort of safeguards. So I think, in my opinion, as a co-sponsor and a signer on the bill, there are some safeguards that I know we've got to look at and we've got to institute, but at the same time, I just believe the public is ready, and hopefully this will be helpful in the healthcare area.
Jim, what do you see as this moves forward? Because you've got two issues. You've got, will we allow some legal production to help these families, and then expanding the list of illnesses.
Right. Well, yeah, the expanding the list of illnesses, I think, is a smaller issue than having production in state. I think the bill calls for somewhere between 2 and 6 sites or entities that would be allowed to grow this in some sort of restricted fashion. And the idea is to prevent these parents that you saw on the video from risking arrest on a felony for crossing state lines with a restricted substance.
Right. Real quick, Senator, Alan Peake makes an interesting point. Sure. You can go out and buy marijuana from a dealer on the street. It would probably have a positive impact on many of these illnesses. People do have access to marijuana. It may not be legal, but you're not going to stop it.
You're not, and this is a new thing. This is new ground. And I think we're going to have some growing pains going through there. But at the same time, I think it's worth the journey, because there's no doubt about it. Apparently, based on the information that these patients are having and the results they're getting, there's some positive aspects of it. So I think the expansion is worth a look.
Let's give you a last 30-second comment.
All I would say is I'll take up Alan Peake's argument, and he says that if parents are going to rely on this as medicine, they have to know precisely what's in it, what strength, and it has to be consistent.
All right, I got to cut it off there because we're running along at this point already. So at the top of the show, we showed you a clip of U.S. Senator Johnny Isakson praising the state's National Guard on the floor of the Georgia House. Didn't stop there. A young woman was actually sworn into the Guard shortly after. Let's take a look.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kenesha Thomas, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of Georgia against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Congratulations, you are now a member of the Army.
That was great. Jim reminds us, last World War II veteran in the House administering the oath, John Yates. Coming up on Lawmakers, the White House nominated a DeKalb County judge for a position on the federal bench, but Dax Lopez didn't get confirmed. Senator Vincent Ford spoke out about it today. As we go to a break, another round of Know Your Lawmakers. Representative Trey Kelly is a Republican representing House District 16 in Cedartown. He was first sworn in as a member of the General Assembly in 2013. Kelly is an attorney. He says he's had some awkward moments when former law school professors have testified against bills he's sponsored. Kelly grew up with country singer Sam Hunt and UGA football running back Nick Chubb. Kelly says you can often catch him sporting distinctive socks. His extensive collection boasts everything from bacon to pizza.
Next time on Finding Your Roots, they are among the funniest men in show business. Jimmy Kimmel.
What a face that is. It's more Muppet than human.
Bill Hader.
That's crazy. He looks like my dad.
And Norman Lear.
I'm astounded.
How far back do their families go?
You're looking at your 40th great-grandfather.
On the next Finding Your Roots.
Tuesday at 8 on GPB.
A lot can happen in a day, and most of it can't be summed up in a headline or subject line or 140 characters. So when you're ready to know more than just what's happening outside your window, around the country, and across the globe, we'll bring you the voices who can tell you why.
This is All Things Considered.
Listen every afternoon.
From 4 to 7 on GPB Radio.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Hey, bring me down.
Wednesday at 7:30 on GPB.
Did you know that the first public transcontinental phone call was placed from Jekyll Island, Georgia on this date, January 25, 1915? The four-way phone call linked AT&T President Theodore Vail at Jekyll, President Woodrow Wilson in Washington, Alexander Graham Bell in New York, and Bell's assistant Thomas Watson in San Francisco. Welcome back to Lawmakers. We still have a lot to talk about with the AJC's Jim Galloway, with Representative Calvin Smyre, with Senator Ed Harbison, and Senator Greg Kirk. Let's get to a big issue that's brewing down there. And you said something as we were sitting here waiting to go on the air. There seems to be some sense of agreement around this table that the Georgia State Senate, Jim Galloway, is probably going to, the odds are good, you're going to pass a bill to legalize horse racing in Georgia out of your chamber this year.
I was thinking that he was thinking get to the floor. I think that's the big hurdle. But the
are you backpedaling already?
No, I'm going to lay it out like this. My point of it, I think there's been so much massaging of that bill on behalf of the people who are trying to get it moved. At least they pulled back, for example, 15 satellite locations down to 3 in order to get it moved and get it at least some favorable consideration, at least get it from the committee.
What are the odds you think it's going to pass out of the Senate and be over to the House?
I would give it 51-49.
You think it might come to you, right?
I think it'll pass. I watch horse racing. I've watched the political ins and outs of it, and I watched it over the years, and Geisinger and others, the late Representative Geisinger, and now it's in the Senate. It's almost, Jim will tell you, it's been an issue in the House for a long period of time. Now it's going to be introduced in the Senate. It's in the committee now, And I'm thinking, I'm very positive of thinking that it'll pass the Senate.
We're talking constitutional amendment,
Right.
2/3 passage.
Right. Correct.
Democrats will be needed.
Yeah.
All Democrats will be needed, and some Republicans.
Right.
The question is, who's your Republican who cuts that deal?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know the person's name, but he has a knife in his hand.
Well, it's not this one. No. I'm not going to take those odds.
You're not going to vote. You would not support getting horse racing to the voters of Georgia?
I love horse racing, but it's the betting part that we have the problem with.
While we're talking about gambling, what about casinos? Where do we stand on that, Representative Smyre?
I served on the study committee and on the hope preservation, and which is a part of the casino bill, because hope is in the equation. If we were to pass it, they would be a recipient of some of the funds. I think that we're going to continue to have some discussion and monitor the horse racing bill in the Senate, and at the same time look at where we are as a General Assembly, and common sense says it's going to be heavy lift because it's going to take 120 votes.
I don't want to make that a really bad pun, but is the horse racing a stalking horse for casinos? Will you wait, and will that be your sign that this casino issue is ready to float?
Well, if something passes the Senate as it relates to a constitutional amendment passes the Senate, and if it's horse racing or any other measure of pari-mutuel betting or whatever it may be, then I think it's a good signal.
I think what Jim just said is what is in the back of a lot of people's mind. They think that once you get in there, you're toeing the door, you're going to come up with casinos, even at those sites that's why those 15 sites were pulled back, I feel, because they thought that's an open door to have a casino and that kind of thing. But the truth of it is, if you get in the door, there's probably going to be people who come in and say, look, we'll offer this much, 3% for education or whatever that number is, or so many jobs per city and that kind of thing, will obviously have a positive effect.
The beauty of both of these measures, Senator Kirk, is that they're constitutional amendments. The governor doesn't get to veto them, and he's already made it clear he doesn't support either idea.
Right, and I think that's probably the best approach that the industries could take to try to get something passed in Georgia. So that it kind of does put it in the hands of the people, which is great. I mean, that's a good thing, but I don't know that it's going to make it through the chambers in order to get to that point.
But if it gets to the people, it'll pass. We had the same thing with the lottery. Everybody was no on the lottery.
Yeah.
If you are playing the lottery, that's a form of gambling.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're out of time, but Calvin Smyre, Jim Galloway, and I are maybe the only ones at the table who remember Zell Miller and his lottery bill back in the early 90s. Before we say goodbye tonight, let's take a look at some of the action from the floor of the state Senate. Very passionate Vincent Fort took a point of personal privilege this morning, expressing his disappointment that Atlanta Judge Dax Lopez was not given a confirmation hearing to become a federal judge. Let's listen.
20 or 30 or 40 years from now, we're going to look back and say, hold it now. We did not allow this jurist, this qualified person, this Georgian to serve on the federal court because he was hanging around with folk who stood up for people who couldn't stand up for themselves. We all should be outraged, not just Latinos, but anybody who believes that nominees ought to get a fair hearing and a fair chance to make their case to the public.
Remember.
That's it.
Well, that's it for tonight. That was Senator Vincent Fort on the floor of the Senate today. I thank all of you for being with us today. We've just finished day 9 of the 2016 legislative session. 31 days to go. Aren't you impressed by this math? We'll be back tomorrow night for day 10, and we'll take a closer look at how presidential politics are shaping up here in Georgia and under the Gold Dome. As always, you can track us on Facebook and Twitter at GPB News, or check out our website, gpb.org/lawmakers, where you can find full episodes of the show. You should also remember that Political Rewind is on GPB Radio every Wednesday at 2 live and every Friday at 3. Jim Galloway and I are there virtually every show. We have a great time with our panel of experts, so we hope you'll tune in to listen to the program. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Bill Nigut. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good evening.